in the 2022 real estate market update and his market review. That's what he's going to give us this morning. Okay, go ahead, take it away.
Good morning, everybody, and hope you're doing well and everybody's staying healthy. Just insert the standard witty repartee while I attempt to share my slides here. So stand by, please. While I get my act together, this could take 6 to 8 weeks. And Martha, can you see my slides? Because I've got you hanging out there.
Yes.
Cool. All right, let's get right into it. Some very surprising things happened in residential real estate last year. And there's essentially 3 plot lines in this story. First plot line, obvious if you're in the business or if you're talking to people that are trying to buy a home, is that home buyers had the fewest choices last year in the last 6 years. And as no surprise, we set sales prices not only throughout the East Bay, but in the Tri-Valley as well. And then the last conclusion that we can make about 2021 is that residential real estate markets are working, in quotes. Now, what does this mean to make this proclamation? I mean, here I say that we've got few choices for buyers and sales prices are in the stratosphere. How can I say that markets are working? Well, home sales were actually at a 6-year high, which you may be experiencing some cognitive dissonance because I just said that we had the fewest choices for buyers in 6 years. How did that happen? We're going to dig into that. Next, the amount of time that a home was on the market was at a 4-year low. So at the same time we had these incredible sales prices, homes were flying off the shelves. And last, take a look at pending sales, and that's a measurement of how many buyers are not only in the market, but making active and legitimate offers. They were very consistent during 2021. So they weren't scared of having to compete. They weren't scared about these sales prices. So those are I looked at what was happening last year and looked at these factors and said, you know what? Yeah, it's really, really expensive to purchase a home in the East Bay, but buyers are doing exactly that. They're purchasing homes. Let's dig into this because if you've seen these presentations before, you know I love my charts and graphs. So let's give you some charts and graphs. We'll start with this first observation about home choices. And we're going to look at inventory or the number of homes that are available for sale in a couple different ways. We'll go back to 2017, and on a month-to-month basis, you can see that there are some big variations in how many homes are for sale, depending on where you are in the year. And then depending on what year it is, there have been some significant variations as well. And I illustrate this just to show that markets they're volatile, again, depending on where you are in the year. However, if you squint a little bit, you can see that there was clearly a significant difference in choices for buyers 2019 compared to 2020, and then in 2021. And some very interesting things happened in 2020. In direct correlation with the lockdowns in March, we saw a drop off in the number of homes listed for sale as we went into March because of the lockdown, but then things rebounded and we had a pretty good inventory, relatively speaking, given the fact that we were in a global pandemic during 2020. We get into 2021, it was a very different year. Buyers were really struggling in the first half of the year. Sellers not sure what to do. They didn't put their homes on the market until very, very late in the year, which contributed to this lack of choices for buyers. Another way to look at this, if we take out the seasonal variations and the month-to-month changes, is to analyze the average number of homes for sale on a monthly basis for the entire year. And this takes out those fluctuations depending on where you are in the year. And here you can see this is where we come up with this observation that we're at a 6-year low with only 1,100 units for sale on an average month in the East Bay. And this is an aggregation for the entire East Bay. We are going to dig into some Tri-Valley specific numbers in a second, but regardless of where you are in the East Bay, this has been the situation going back to 2017. So very few choices, which leads us right into record-breaking sales prices. The big surprise here is not the fact that the median sales price for a single-family detached home in 2021 was north of $1.1 million. What's surprising is that we actually had some price stability from 2018 to 2019. And as we were looking at what may happen in the market in 2020, we expected those conditions to continue. We expected that days on market were going to be a little bit longer, that there would be more negotiation between buyers and sellers, and that maybe residential real estate was taking a turn towards a more balanced market. The global pandemic kicked in, working from home, particularly in the Tri-Valley, became not only feasible, but very desirable. We had historically low interest rates. You can't say work from home without home. All those pressures pushed us towards a record-breaking year for sales prices in 2020, and then another record-breaking year for sales prices in 2021. Again, this is an aggregation of real estate transactions throughout the East Bay. We will be taking a look at the Tri-Valley markets in a minute. The other thing that to just show this correlation between supply and demand is that you can see if we transpose the number of units that were available on the market with sales prices, the price stability that I alluded to earlier in 2019 directly correlates with a significant increase in choices that buyers had. Then as we move into 2020 and we see inventory drop and then inventory really drop in 2021, you can see the corresponding increase in sales prices. So this is your economics 101 lesson for this morning. There will not be a quiz. So this statement about markets are working, what do we mean by that? And let's start with the most challenging one, home sales at a 6-year high. So this is an aggregation, as I've shown you with other things, of sales activity throughout the East Bay on an annual basis. And you can see that what's remarkable here, so, okay, I say that at a 6-year high. That's really not that impressive if you take a look at just how consistent sales had been 2016, 17, 18 in the high 19,000, 20,000 range. As I've said before, I keep saying the aggregation word. This is an aggregation, but if you take a look at individual communities, they were pretty consistent as well. And what's remarkable about that 5-year span is at the same time, we had very high sales prices, but buyers weren't scared. So when we say, okay, we're at a 6-year high, it's a fun thing to say, it's very dramatic, but keep in mind that there are some factors that led us to this 6-year high. One of the big factors is what I call the COVID-19 timeout, and I have to use the timeout hand gesture. What was the timeout? Well, you take a look at sales activity on a monthly basis, and we're going to focus on 2020. January of 2020, January is historically a very slow month for real estate. There were 918 homes sold. We saw an increase in February, and then bam, this drop from February to March through April into May. Homes just we didn't get that spring acceleration that we typically would do in a quote normal real estate year. We had peak sales activity in 2020 in July with 2,000 units sold. And then sales activity was remarkably stable throughout the fall, which was unusual. Usually things would slow down during the fall, and buyers stayed in the market much later in 2020. We get to 2021 and it's a very different year. We started actually with more than 1,200 units sold in January. So there was this head start to the real estate year. And our peak sales in 2021, 2,400 units sold in July. So we set a sales record in terms of the last 6 years in 2021 because we started quicker and our peak sales volume was quicker as well. Also, we didn't have this 45 to 60 day pause in real estate activities because of the lockdown, trying to figure out how to safely do real estate transactions. You take that out of the equation and bam, yeah, it was a very vigorous year. Now you may still be asking, well, what about these fewer choices for home buyers? How did that factor in? Well, one of the things is that homes come on the MLS, they don't always sell. Sometimes there's a little bit of churning. And one of the things that we've seen is that homes hitting the MLS during 2021, they did sell and they sold very quickly. So there's less of a chance that we were seeing the same home showing up on the MLS multiple times. It was you put it on the MLS, bam, it's going to sell. So that was one of the factors that contributed to fewer choices for buyers. Part of it was just when inventory was hitting the MLS system. So the other thing that's really remarkable and why I can say these markets are working is you look at this correlation between sales prices and sales activity. And yeah, you can see that there's drop off in sales activity, but it doesn't always correlate with drop off in sales prices. I mean, we saw, record-setting sales prices March through May through July in the East Bay last year. But you take a look at what happened with sales activity, we saw some actual month-to-month increases. This is why I say that these markets are working, because the buyers simply weren't scared of these prices. Yes, things did slow down. Due to the seasonal nature of real estate. So we take a look at the other measure of why markets are working, days on market of 4-year low, and we'll go back to this East Bay aggregation and show things on a month-to-month basis. Further evidence that real estate is seasonal. You can see that we have these spikes. We had a spike in days on market up into the 45-day range during the holiday season in 19. We see another spike during the holiday season in 2020. 2021 was a very different year. Yes, we did see the slowdown where homes were on the market a bit longer, but 25 days. I've been looking at real estate markets for a long time, and I can't recall when the slowest time of the year equated to only 25 days on market. That is still a very, very brisk market. So yeah, things did slow down a little bit in 2021, but compared to previous years, 25 days on market during the holiday season, that told me that buyers were getting into the market, they were willing to pay, they made competitive offers, and homes sold quickly. Evidence that these markets are working. I'm just going to take a look at my phone real quick, not to check my social media stuff, just to see what time it is. Okay, we're good to go. Another way to look at days on market is take the seasonal stuff out of the picture. Going back to 2019, 30 days on market. That was much, much longer than we'd seen in previous years. More evidence that buyers and sellers were negotiating a little bit more. We saw that manifest in sales prices actually stabilizing. We get to 2020, we're back on the gas. We accelerate. It's 23 days on average. 2021, 17 days on average. That's an average for the entire year. Things moved very, very quickly last year. More evidence that buyers are willing to pay. The last thing is, were people just saying, forget it, I'm not going to buy a home, I'm not going to make offers? Yeah, that didn't happen. We compare 2020 with 2021. In March, there were 1,200 offers made, compared with March of 2021, where we're at almost 2,000. In April, things really slowed down. Buyers really, really uncertain in 2020 with only 795 offers made. Compare that with 2,000 in April of 2021. In May, when things really started to get rocking, there were 1,500 in 2020, 1,900 in 2021. So the buyer said, yeah, things are expensive. I want home ownership. I'm going to get in the market. I'm going to make offers. Here's the correlation between sales prices and offers. Look at this period from March all the way to September. Yeah, things drop off a little bit, more of a function of inventory than buyers being scared. Things drop off during the holiday season last year. Things dropped off during the holiday season this year. It wasn't necessarily sales prices. So buyers are taking a look at what's out there. They're looking at the price tag and they're saying, I don't care. Interest rates are still relatively low. I want to get into home ownership. Last thing I want to share with you is just a few things in the Tri-Valley. We're going to take a look at our inventory situation. It mirrors the trends that we saw throughout the East Bay. Each of our markets definitely impacted by fewer choices for buyers. You can see it's a very, very, very similar trend with that East Bay aggregation. We take a look at sales prices. I'll leave this up just for a second. You can see Pleasanton at 1.6, Dublin 1.4. And Livermore at 1.12. This is the median for single family detached, which means half sold above, half sold below that price. So Livermore solidly in the $1 million range. And then last, in terms of sales activity, as it was with the rest of the East Bay, 2021 was a good year for sales activity. More evidence that markets aren't just working in the East Bay, but the markets are working here as well. I don't want to come across as being insensitive to folk that can't afford home ownership, that are priced out of the market. That's truly the case. There are a lot of people that can't afford home ownership under these current market conditions. That said, there are a lot of people that can afford home ownership. So I'm not trying to be glib when I say these markets are working. It's just a statement of fact. And also, a little bit of a prognostication as to what may be coming. If we saw a big change in days on market, if we saw that increase significantly, that would tell us that homes are simply overpriced. People aren't willing to pay. If we saw a big drop off in pending sales, again, buyers exiting the market, not willing to pay those prices, we should expect a change in prices. If we saw a big drop off in sales activity, another indication that, hey, these markets aren't working, something is going to change, probably sales prices. None of those three things have happened in 2021, which tells us these conditions are sustainable. Chief economist from the California Association of Realtors says that yes, there is some new construction happening statewide, but it's not going to really make a dent in demand. We are going to continue to see few choices for buyers. He's anticipating that interest rates are going to increase, but they will still be relatively low compared with, say, the 80s. Those rates will have an impact on buyer behavior. Some will exit the market, but there's still going to be buyers out there willing to pay. Prices will continue to set records in 2022. The economy, it's doing pretty good, particularly here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Unemployment relatively low, all things considered, in many of the tech sectors. And he's anticipating that our sales activity is going to be brisk as well, exceeding the pre-crisis levels. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and hang out virtually with you this morning. That's me. That's what they call me. That's where you can email me. Happy to share my slides. And you can also give me a call. That's actually my cell number, or shoot me a text. And I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but I'm at home, so ain't going nowhere. Just really appreciate the opportunity to share.
Do we have any questions? Looking. No questions?
I might have a question.
Go ahead, Jody.
Dave, just wanted to ask, how are investment properties, Airbnbs, affecting real estate right now, especially with COVID? You know, stay home, staycations, things like that.
So there's two questions there. There's investment properties and there's Airbnbs. I rarely, as in never, hear about Airbnbs in this area. We had an issue with vacation rentals in San Leandro a few years ago. San Leandro cracked down on some party houses, and the biggest impact was probably on some traveling nurses that were using Airbnbs while they had temporary assignments at the Kaiser Hospital. But in terms of Airbnbs here, I just don't hear about them. I rarely hear of agents talking about, hey, I've got a perfect property for a vacation rental. It's just not a factor. Investment properties, though, in terms of tenant occupied rental properties, whether it's a condo or a single family home or a triplex, I'm hearing anecdotally on a regular basis that the additional layers of tenant protections that are being considered either at the state level or at the county level are causing people to sell their rentals. The conventional wisdom in real estate for decades was you never sell a rental. That conventional wisdom has been turned on its head as it becomes more and more difficult, particularly for mom and pop landlords, to operate under the eviction moratorium, the various other things that have come down either from the state or the county. Fortunately for mom and pop housing providers, which provide a very stable source of affordable rental income, or not rental housing, I should say, our local cities have not really explored aggressive tenant protection measures like they have on the other side of the hill. And we're seeing that happen along the 880 corridor. And I hear almost on a daily basis, my clients want to sell their rentals. That's going to directly impact the rental market. It will bring a bit more inventory onto the homeownership side of things. But in terms of making a big change on the economics of homeownership, it's going to impact the rental side of things more than it's going to impact the ownership market.
Michael has a question.
Hi, good morning, David. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Good morning, Michael.
My question is going to be along the lines of bubble. Do you see a bubble coming because of the potential increase in rates for mortgages and such? What do you think?
No, I think that if there was going to be so bubble implies something bursting and a dramatic change. If anything, we would see, as we saw in 2019, homes staying on the market a bit longer, which would cause sellers to reconsider their pricing. We might see some price stability. The other thing that would cause a bubble would be just homeownership would no longer be desirable. I don't see that being the case, particularly in the Tri-Valley. Homeownership, particularly in the Tri-Valley, is very special for people living in the San Francisco Bay Area, because since we are relatively newer communities, the homes that have been built in the Tri-Valley are larger in terms of more bedrooms, more bathrooms, which makes it easier for you to work from home. I mean, there's somebody working from home in the bedroom right next to me. I think she's actually communicating with somebody on this call right now, making wisecracks about me. Scott. Sorry, I just had to get that out of my system. But I think there would have to be some major changes beyond just interest rates. Now, to be perfectly clear, even a fractional increase in rates will have an impact on the economics of homeownership when you're talking about $1 million price tag. That moves the needle in terms of that monthly payment. That said, the Tri-Valley, as with many other Bay Area communities, jobs housing imbalance. And unless and until there's a major change in the employment situation, which is also unlikely, I see these conditions continuing. I see maybe a little bit of a slowdown, maybe some price stability, but a bubble bursting, no.
Great. Looking for hands. For anyone to have any other questions for David?
Sharon, this is Sherry. David, Mark Triska has a couple questions for David. He just messaged me, yeah. So Mark wants to know, you've already answered the bubble question. His second part of the question is, what is Bay's position on downtown Eden project, number one? And then how negatively will rising interest rates affect housing?
So I'll take the Eden one. We have not taken a position on the downtown Eden project. Going back to the interest rate question, again, I think I agree with the chief economist for the California Association of Realtors. I think it is going to knock some buyers out of the market, but there are still some buyers that are going to want to buy. So as I was sharing with Michael, I mean, if there was a major change, it's going to resonate in terms of homes being on the market a bit longer and maybe prices stabilizing. That's what I see. And then the first question, I apologize, I didn't catch the first part of the question. There were three.
That was, what is Bay East position on the downtown Eden project?
Okay, I thought that was the second question. Well, I'll re-answer that question. We haven't taken a position on that project.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
That was it?
Okay, tell Mark I say hello. Oh, there he is right there.
I know. So much fun on this call. Oh my gosh, there's Dawn. Uh-oh, she's checking on us.
Now I got to behave.
I know exactly. We just got in trouble. How are we doing, Dawn? Okay, great. I know I'm looking at the chamber staff like, uh-oh, boss is on the call. Okay. I think unless there aren't any more questions for Dave, I think we are done, everyone. So early. Dawn, I swear to you, we covered everything. We really did. And if there aren't any other questions, our next meeting is March 2nd. Thank you, Martha. I can't see it on my agenda here. All right.
Yes.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to add or like to share with the group? Go to the group. No?
We're good.
You have a comment in the chat,
We do.
or did you already share that? Sorry, I should
No,
be
that's
quiet.
okay.
Coming in late.
Johanna, do you want to talk about this? Oh, it looks like, is this a new? Oh,
Yes,
go ahead.
we're new members and we're unsure of the protocol, so we don't want to barge in and
No. Welcome. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining. Go do a little, we normally at the beginning of the call, for new members. So give us a brief introduction. Go for it.
Okay, great. My name is Mark McMillan, and I am a member of the Garden of Eden, which will be Livermore's first cannabis dispensary located at the Darcy Kent Vineyard site. I'm joined on the call. We are very excited to be part of this business community, figuring out how to best serve the community and with our store and charitable endeavors. I'd like to also introduce my colleague Rihanna. She can tell you a little bit. We have an open house coming up, and she can give you the details.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Hello and good morning, everybody. My name is Rihanna Charoki-Manich. I am the Marketing and Customer Experience Manager for Garden of Eden, and we are very excited to be opening a storefront at the Livermore Vineyards. We will be having a grand opening sometime in spring, but throughout President's Day weekend, February 17th through February 21st, from about 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we are hosting an open house to give folks a tour of the facility, come talk with some of our members of staff. This open house is also for job seekers too. We will have several position openings at our storefront. If you've been to the Darcy Kent Vineyards before, our storefront will be located in what used to be the almost famous tasting room that has since been relocated. So we are so excited to be a part of the Livermore Chamber of Commerce, and we invite you to come down to our storefront and see what our store is all about. Thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome. I think everyone here at the chamber, we welcome you, especially on the board of directors, we welcome all new members. So thank you for that update. Thanks you guys for jumping in. That was perfect.
Thank you for the time too. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it.